All right, Pat, so we're talking bad air quality. Well, take a look behind me. This is part of the community of Mackenzie Bridge and the community of Rainbow, right outside the evacuation zone of the Lookout Fire. That's one of 2 wildfires burning here in Lane County. The other one is south of here called the Bedrock Fire. I'm sure some of that smoke is making its way into this community, but all day today it's been pretty bad. It's been pretty hard to see and breathe. At one point we had to put masks on. We were even wondering if the helicopters that drop water were even working because, I mean, just take a look at the sky here. I'll show you. It is pretty hazy. So, I mean, it's tough. It's kind of the tough part of living out here. These homes are gorgeous, their properties are gorgeous, but they just have to swallow this rough reality that the wind could change, the weather could shift, and they could lose their home. In fact, back in 2020 in the Holiday Farm fire, many people did lose their homes. That happened just a few miles down this way. Earlier today, we actually talked with a woman who lost everything. She rebuilt and is now seeing this Lookout Fire and just bracing for what could come of it.
That's a gorgeous area there. I know the famous Blue Hole water feature is not far from Mackenzie Bridge. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino now to talk about air quality. We see it's bad down there in Lane County. Not great here in Metro either, eh?
No, it's not. You look outside right now from our Wells Fargo Sky Camp, Pat. You can see it's hazy out there. Not as bad as it is farther south, but we're at 102. And with the haze in the sky, look at our air quality monitors. 2 of them in the metro area are in the unhealthy category. The rest are in the moderate category, and there's unhealthy for sensitive group where that orange dot is there too. You get a little farther away, we're back in the good. And around Salem, it's moderate. So it just depends on exactly where you are, but for some reason we've had a little bit of a collection of some bad air here in the Portland area, and then farther south around the fires, much worse south of Eugene, and then over in Central Oregon at Sisters and Bend. That's in the very unhealthy and hazardous category because of the drift of the smoke over the Cascades and into the valleys there over in Central Oregon. So what is going to happen next with this? Well, here's our smoke forecast, and this is called vertically integrated smoke. So it's surface smoke and the upper level smoke, and it all gets pushed away from us as we go into Thursday. Thicker smoke farther on down to the south. So we will begin to get some improvement, Pat, as we go into the next couple of days here in the Portland area, but close to those fires, even around Eugene and then across the Cascades into Central Oregon, it's going to be bad air for quite some time.
Feel for all you folks out there. That is just nasty stuff. We do have a question, Matt. John wants to know, are the sun solar flares that have recently been happening having any effect on the weather? He says, I know we are heading to a peak with flares from the sun, so we was just curious if that's been studied.
Oh, yes, that has been studied and a lot. And John is right. We are heading into what is called the solar maximum. There's an 11-year cycle with the sun where you get a lot of activity and then a minimum and then a lot of activity. And that cycle goes every 7 years. So, yes, the sun has been active. Now, we're going to do something, Pat, that I've always wanted to do on this story. Calculus. Just kidding. We're really not going to do it, but I'm showing you the Stefan Boltzmann law because this shows the relationship between radiant heat and temperature. It's basically proportional to the 4th power of the temperature. That's as much calculus as we are going to do. Luckily, the folks at NASA have boiled this down into a graph that shows the relationship between the Earth's temperature and solar activity. So let's zoom in on this a little bit, and it goes up until 2021. So time going from left to right and then from the bottom of the screen and up is what we call total solar irradiance in watts per meter squared. That's basically the power of the sun, how much energy we're getting from the sun, right? That, of course, is the yellow line. Our Earth's temperature is the red line. And you can see they don't really track. The thick lines here are 11-year averages. 11 years is used to try to reduce some of the noise from the signal because the sun is on that 11-year cycle that I told you about. And then the thin lines are the annual variations here. But look what happens. You see the solar activity going down over the last several decades, while the Earth's temperature has been steadily going up. So the relationship has been studied, and there's really very little relationship between solar activity and the Earth's temperature. Now, when we get a solar maximum, we may see a little bit of an increase, a little bit of a contribution, like 0.05 degrees Celsius to maybe 0.1. whereas the contribution from human-caused global warming has been an accumulating 0.2 degrees Celsius over the last several decades here. So you can see the contribution from climate change way outstrips the contribution that we get when we get a little bit of an uptick in solar activity. So this has been studied by lots of scientists for a very, very long time, but it is a great question, but the answer is basically really very little contribution, Pat.
Thanks, Matt. I always learn great stuff here, and thanks for sparing us most part on the calculus.
You bet.
I'm a proud English major. Thank you very much.
You got it.